What's up, sis?
Yo, 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 what's up, bro?
Yo, yo, yo. What's up, sis? Welcome, YouTube family. It's your bro.
And your sis, and welcome to Brother to Sister.
All right, sis. So, YouTube fam, B2S fam, as you know, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We are going to be dealing with, as you know, matters as it pertains to the heart. Everything flows through the heart. So, we got another good topic with my sis today. So, sis, what we're going to hit the people up with today?
Today, we're going to discuss healthy versus unhealthy relationships. This kind of hits home to a lot of people, I'm sure, because, bro, there's been a point in time we've both been in unhealthy relationships. And there's also been a point in time when we've been in healthy relationships. And sometimes relationships just don't work. So that's what we're going to discuss today, the unhealthy versus healthy, and also just kind of give you an idea of what you may need to look for. If you're in a unhealthy relationship, there's a lot of things you want to look for, and a lot of people don't know what to look for when they're in an unhealthy relationship, or don't even know that they are in an unhealthy relationship. In some instances, sometimes we just need to let the relationship go, and that's okay as well. But we're not going to talk really much about that today. Today, we're more diving into the unhealthy versus healthy relationship dynamics. So when you're in an unhealthy relationship, in my eyes, the most important thing that you want to look for or you want to do is make sure that you are both communicating healthy. And what I mean by that is that in a relationship, it's 50-50. Okay. So you're both individuals. We understand all that. You're both separate, but what you bring to the relationship should be 50-50. And so when you're communicating with your partner, you have to do that 50-50 as well. What I mean by that is that when you're talking to your partner, you want to voice your concerns, your opinions, whatever's on your heart. But you also want to effectively listen to what your partner has to say. That is very important. It cannot be one-sided. So you must make sure that when you are communicating with your partner, you're talking to them, not at them. And you're also making sure that you're listening to what they're saying, because their concerns and their opinions matter as well.
Very true, sis. You know, it's interesting, the healthy dynamics. When you're in a healthy relationship, some of the key things that I think you will start to notice right off the bat is usually there's a connection. It's got to be a connection that is more than just, because let's just be honest, guys. We usually aren't attracted to the most unattractive person in the room. Let's just be real. A lot of it starts initially from the fact that you, in a relationship, if you see somebody, you find them attractive some way, somehow, physically, right? Because it's not just the physical, it's also got to be sort of that emotional attachment, like my sister's saying, that connection, where when you're around the person, there usually maybe is a sense of calm, a sense of ease, a sense of like you're relaxed. You can just be truly who you are, and you know that they got your back, you got your back. I mean, there's moments, for example, I've been in relationships I think we all can relate to, where sometimes you don't even need to say anything. It's just being around each other. And it's just that sort of zen or peace that you get from just being in each other's companies, where you feel a mutual respect, a mutual appreciation for the relationship, and having that healthy dynamic and wanting to be around them and foster and desire to be around them more. Almost like it's natural, right, sis?
Yes,
Take
bro,
it
that
home.
is exactly right. And you want to make sure that when you're communicating again, that you're communicating effectively. So sit your partner down. If you have any concerns or you have anything on your heart weighing heavy on you, make sure you're talking to them. Make sure that it's a healthy communication. Everyone gets into little quarrels and disagreements and arguments and fights, stuff like that. But you want to make sure that you're not being demeaning to that person. You want to make sure that you're just effectively telling them or communicating what the problem is, how can we resolve it, and you want to make sure that you have that healthy dynamic going with that communication, because if not, it can lead to more unhealthiness in your relationship. And what I mean by that is that when you start an argument with someone, let's say you have someone coming home and they just bicker every day over anything. Ice cream is not cold enough. The milk, you didn't cook today. Something, whatever it is. They're just always argumentative. That's not healthy. So you want to sit that partner down and let them know, listen, I'm not sure what's going on with you, if you had a bad day today, or if that, it just seems like every time you just have something that is weighing heavy on you that you have to get out, and it turns into an argument. I don't want to argue every day. I want peace in our relationship. Sit them down and let them know that it's okay, whatever you're going through, let's talk about it, and I can help you resolve it if need be. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be in a relationship with someone who just bickers and argues constantly over nothing. It's not healthy. You want to try to turn that dynamic around. And in order to do that, B2S family, what you have to do is really sit down, effectively communicate your thoughts and your ideas to that partner. Let them know that, listen, we're in this together. I'm not against you. I'm here with you. We're a team. And we both have our own individual personalities that we're bringing into the situation. But I don't know if it's some baggage that you had from your old relationship, or that you're bringing in here, or what have you. But I'm not going to have that. We can't argue all the time. We can't fuss all the time. We can't bicker all the time. We got to resolve this. Is that right, bro? What do you think on that?
Absolutely agree. As my sis just mentioned, communication. I think that probably is the biggest thing in a relationship, particularly a healthy relationship. If you have a healthy dynamic, you probably communicate effectively. And we're not talking communication because sometimes, fam, as my sis was mentioning, people can go through communication and it's sort of like they're hearing, but they're not really listening to you. So again, they could be distracted, or if they're kind of sort of just going through the motions, not really engaged, too preoccupied with other thoughts. There have been relationships where sometimes you might feel like the person is the most present, absent person you have ever seen in your life. That probably is not the kind of dynamic you want to have. But for a healthy dynamic, you do want to have one where the person's engaged, they're attentive, they're giving you the time, they're invested. And because they are committed to the relationship, they're taking that effort. And as my sis mentioned, they're meeting you 50-50. I don't know anybody who have a healthy, successful relationship with someone else all by themselves. At some point, if it's not 50-50 in terms of the contribution, it's going to become a little daunting and it's going to become uneven. And what will eventually happen is it could lead to resentment and it could lead to the parties drifting apart. You've got to have two people. Both people have to want the relationship. Both of them are going to have to contribute, as my sis just mentioned, and do their part.
I agree, bro. And the other thing I wanted to throw in there as well is that you don't want of the type of relationship where you're always the one contributing, you're always the one communicating, you're always the one giving, you're always the one doing something. You want to make sure that partner's meeting you halfway. So if you're in a relationship with someone right now and you're always the one communicating and listening to them, but they're not doing the same to you, they're either unresponsive or they just don't want to say anything just because they don't want to argue, or they think it's going to lead to a fight, or they're just afraid to say anything to you. That's something you want to look for in your relationship. That's unhealthy. You don't want to be in a relationship where it's just you in it by yourself. You want to make sure your partner is bringing 50-50 to the table. They're communicating effectively with you as well. You're getting something out of the relationship and not just giving all the time. You want to make sure that your partner is attentive, as my brother said, and they're listening to you. And also, they're holding you responsible for anything that happens in the relationship that is your fault. You want to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable and they're holding you accountable as well. These things are healthy in a relationship. You have to hold each other accountable. You have to make sure that you're communicating effectively. And that's the reason that's what makes a healthy relationship.
Agree, sis. I think in addition to the communication piece, the other critical thing that's part of a healthy dynamic is you've got to have respect. The big R is a key thing for a healthy relationship. If you don't have respect for the person, if the person does not show you consistently respect, that probably is a no-go, and it's likely a sign that the relationship is just not going to work. Nobody wants to be in a relationship, be it personal, be it professional, where there is a culture, or let's just say an environment of disrespect. And what you have to do is you have to put safeguards up in order to ensure that you protect your space and that you let people know how to treat you, so that when they cross certain boundaries, it's likely good for you to kind of confront them head on. I don't like to let things linger. Like my sis mentioned, we're not talking about nitpicking at every little thing. Oh, you left the door open. You didn't close the door. We're not talking about those things. And that might be true, right? Because you don't want people just coming into your house. But the reality is that you got to make sure that when somebody does treat you with respect, when somebody is actually confronting you, when they're talking to you about issues, if there's challenges in the relationship, everything is done from a foundation of respect.
Yes, bro. I completely agree. Respect is key in a relationship. You both must have respect for not only yourself, but for each other in the relationship. If you have a person that is constantly telling you you're nothing, they're telling you you're worthless, they're telling you, and this is most of the times when you're in a fight, because that's usually when those kind of things come out. You're not going to ever be anything, or whatever have you. That's very disrespectful to you. You want to sit that person down and be like, listen, let me tell you something. When we're in a heated discussion, because that's what it is, a heated discussion. It doesn't have to be an argument. You don't have to demean me. You don't have to take to make me feel less than. That's not what this is about. We're just trying to get our points across to each other. And we want to do that in a healthy way, not a way bringing each other down. That's not how you do it. You want to actually have that open dialogue with each other so that you can communicate and they can communicate effectively in that relationship. And there is a mutual respect that is in that communication. That is very important. So don't ever allow someone to demean you, to degrade you, to call you out of your name. Anything that's disrespectful, don't allow it. Make sure that you nip that in the bud right away, because that is an unhealthy, that will cause an unhealthiness in your relationship. And it will also allow your partner to think that they can treat you any old kind of way. My thing, bro, is that you have to show someone, B2S family, how to treat you. And what I mean by that is that you not only tell them, but you show them. So when they say things or they do things to you, you stop it right then and there and let them know this is not going to be tolerated in this relationship. I'm not allowing this. If this continues, this relationship will be over. I'm not taking it. They got one time, B2S family. That's it. Next time, it's shame on you.
Absolutely, sis. It's about boundaries. And so this brings us up, as my sis mentioned, don't need to tell her to go on what she just talked about. She succinctly, I think, touched on the key points here. One of the other key things that you want to also have in a relationship, to be very frank and honest, is you've got to be willing to challenge the other person. I think being willing to challenge the other person in a relationship is critical. Everything is not going to be Pollyanna. Everything is not going to be cookies and cream. It's not going to be tiptoeing through tulips. It's not going to be all rosy and sunny. There are, to be very frank with you, times that might be really daunting in the relationship. There may be times where you're going to go through the valley together, but that's the key thing. You grow through the valley, not stay in the valley. So what ultimately should happen at the end of the day, when you wake up or when you think about your relationship, there should be more checks, preferably on the good side versus the bad side. But you have to sometimes grow through things and have challenges together, because it's just going to make you stronger. And as we think about that growth that comes through challenges, disagreements, this is another key thing that you're going to have in a healthy relationship. It's okay to argue. It's okay to have disagreements. But as we just precluded with the other key facts in a healthy relationship, it's got to be done from a foundation of respect It should not be in a dynamic where if you argue, the person gaslights or they throw up things from the past to be hurtful, or they argue in a way that's unfair. So what does that mean? They try and twist things around to try and make you feel a sense of shame or hurt. It's geared towards doing more than just talking about the issue. It's in fact a sign of weakness, because what they do is they deflect from really addressing the issue. And this gets us to another point that we're going to get to soon. But sis, what do you think about the whole issue of, again, challenging each other in terms of a healthy relationship?
Bro, I think that's very important. We have to understand that we are both individuals coming into this relationship. So we all bring our own ideals, our own set of values, our own morals. We bring a whole set of stuff into that relationship. We even bring old baggage into it. So because we're bringing all this stuff into our relationship as an individual, our partner also has, you have to understand, that's those same dynamics. They have all that stuff as well. So we're all individuals, bro. At the end of the day, we're going to think and feel and do as we want as an individual. But we also have to make sure in that relationship that we're challenging, as my bro said, each other. And I don't mean challenging each other. And I think he kind of hit home with it, but I don't mean challenging each other as far as like button heads. I'm bigger than you. I'm better than you. I'm faster than you. I'm quicker than you. We're not talking about challenging each other to a duel. We're not talking about that. We mean challenging each other in a relationship. I want to challenge you to do better. I want to challenge you to go for that promotion. I want to challenge you to make sure that we are actually going for our goals, and we are setting boundaries, and we are we're growing together. As my bro said, you don't want to stay stagnant in your relationship. You want to grow, you want to excel, you want to succeed. And not only in life, but you want to do this in your relationship as well. So my bro hit a very important point, and I'm glad you brought that up, bro. That is very important in a relationship.
Yes, sis, absolutely agree. I think that, you have to be willing. And that's the thing. Sometimes people are a bit maybe adverse to confrontation. Some people may be a little meek, a little more quieter. But if you truly value something, you sometimes have to fight for it. And what fighting looks like is being respectful, but challenging your partner on key issues. And we're not talking about every little thing like, okay, look, you left your hairbrush on the counter. I mean, that might be something you might want to bring up. Is it something to fall over a sword on? I don't know. But the thing that I will tell you is that if there are key things in a relationship, and it gets back to communication, you've got to be willing to challenge each other. Everything, like we said, it's about you being willing to put forth the effort and have uncomfortable conversations sometimes, no matter how you might feel, no matter how you might honestly not want to have a confrontational argument. You've got to be willing to address it head on, and you've got to do so, again, making sure that you're respectful, you're coming from a genuine place. And by the way, if the person that you're with knows you, if they trust you, then they will understand that what you're talking about ultimately is for not only the good of you, but for the good of the relationship.
I agree, bro. The other thing you want to make sure, B2S family, make sure you have done the work. Make sure you have healed. Make sure that you have moved on from previous and past relationships. You don't want to bring a whole bunch of emotional baggage into your new relationship. You don't want to bring that, because what that looks like, it will set that relationship up for failure. And what I mean by that is that if you haven't done the work yourself, you haven't actually took time out for yourself, looked in the mirror and said, self, what in the world why did I stay in that relationship? What did I do wrong? What could I have changed? What could I have done different? What have I learned from this relationship? Spend time alone. Make sure your self-esteem has risen from that previous turmoil relationship that you were in. Make sure that you took the time to love yourself, to care for yourself, took time out for yourself, so that your next relationship won't be set up for failure. It looks like some people just jump from relationship to relationship to relationship without doing their homework, without taking a step back and just saying, you know what, let me stop this because I'm accepting the same type of pattern from the old relationship that I was in. It's continuing on to the new relationships that I'm in. I'm choosing the same type of partner, the same partner. That's because you're familiar with that. That's what you're used to. And you run from one thing to another, not healing properly. And it sets you up for failure in all your relationships. So you want to make sure that you've done the homework, that you're taking time out for yourself, B2S family. This is very important. And that you want to make sure that you don't bring all that baggage, all those heavy loads that you're carrying into that new relationship, because you got to understand they're bringing baggage too. May not be as much as yours, but those baggage combined can weigh you down.
I think the last topic we want to touch on is the fact that, again, as we just mentioned, nobody's perfect. You have to practice grace. You have to forgive the other person. But even in a healthy relationship, this is something that you may not necessarily think is a good thing, but it's a great thing. You are going to have challenges. You are going to have disagreements. And to be very frank and blunt with you, B2S fam, you're going to have arguments. Yes, arguments are part of a healthy relationship. Now, what this means is it doesn't mean that you got to be combative. We're not talking about somebody who every time you turn around, they're flaring up, they're pessimistic, toxic, negative in terms of their energy. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that in the growing process, as you learn to work in a relationship with somebody else, there's going to be times you're going to butt heads. You're going to disagree. You will need to voice an air and confront the individual on certain things, challenges, issues that might not be comfortable, but that discomfort is part of being in a healthy relationship. I like to reference a lot, those who know me, Kobe shooting free throws at 4 a.m. My sister would tell you. I don't think that it was always comfortable for Kobe to get up at 4 a.m. and shoot those free throws. But the point is that he did it in spite of how he felt, because even in that discomfort, it was evolving him to become a champion. Similarly, in your relationship, by analogy, you're going to have to confront each other. You're going to have to challenge each other, and you're going to have to do things that sometimes are not going to feel comfortable. Disagreements, arguments never feel good. They're never comfortable, but it's a healthy way for you to work through issues so that you come out in the end stronger, not weaker. This 2B2S family, as we touched on, also fosters and enables trust. It's a part of communication. And we chose to separate it because while communication is really critical and trust is really critical, it's important for you to go in thinking that not everything is going to be Pollyanna. It's not always going to be peaches and cream. It's not going to be tiptoeing through tulips. It's not always going to be rosy. No, the reality is, in order for you to grow as a partner, for you to grow in your relationship together and have a strong, healthy dynamic, you're going to face challenges and you're going to have to see them together and be committed in the end to resolve the issues and work through them. It's learning how to work with each other.
I agree, bro. And B2S family, we all have to understand that we are individuals at the end of the day. We bring our own set of values. We bring our own set of concerns, our own set of ideas, our own set of emotions into a relationship. So you want to make sure that when you are in an argument, or if any challenges do arise in your relationship, that you go through all these different scenarios we've given you. The communication needs to be there. Effectively communicating and listening to your partner is very important. The trust needs to be there so that you can trust each other with these challenges and arguments, that you won't take what I say and use it against me, that you won't bring stuff up in an argument that has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, that you stay exactly right where you're at when you're in this heated discussion or argument with your partner, or challenges with your partner. You just want to make sure that the lines of communication are kept open, that the dialogue is effective, and that you are listening to what your partner is saying, and he's listening to you, or she's listening to what you're saying when you're communicating in that relationship and those arguments. And I understand that when you are arguing, you're not going to sit there and be like, look, sis, I'm not going to sit here and try to go through every effective way to argue, to make sure that I'm not saying the wrong thing. Look, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. We learn from them and we grow. And that's what we do as human beings. So just make sure that when you're in these challenges and in these times, because like I said, because we're individuals, we're bringing all this stuff to our relationship. When we're in these times, that we are giving each other grace, that we're taking our time. And sometimes it's okay to just step away and say, you know what? Let me just back up. Look, I'm going to go for a little bit, come back to it later. And that way you can have a healthier form of communicating with your partner.
That could be a very effective way, to your point, to really foster that trust and to not erode the friendship, not to erode the respect or to step over certain boundaries, because you will get heated sometimes. And sometimes taking a step back is probably better so you can take 5 steps forward, as my sis just mentioned. All right, B2S fam. Sis, I think we touched on all the key points. If there's anything else that you have to add, sis?
I think we touched on all the key points, bro. The one thing I just want to say to you guys, my B2S family, just remember, when you're in a relationship, you're going to go through your ups and downs, your struggles, your trials, your tribulations. Nothing's going to be perfect in a relationship. And that's any relationship. I don't care what type it is. So just remember to give yourself that grace. Just remember to grow, to learn from your mistakes, from your past experiences and stuff like that. And it's okay to make a mistake. None of us are perfect.
Absolutely, sis. As you just mentioned, perfectly said. The key thing to remember and words to live by. Very good, sis. Thank you very much, B2S fam. We want to make sure that you hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed this and want to hear other topics. Please leave comments on other aspects of the relationship, different points or things that you think you'd like to hear about or that potentially we could do for the next series of events or talks that we give, respectively. Until then, be safe, y'all.